guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Grace and today we're actually going to be talking about the February budget. So I do have all my receipts here from January, so I'm going to take these out because we are going to start fresh for the month of February. And I'm also going to go ahead and write in my numbers for the month of February. So all of the bills. I've already put all the stickers down here on the monthly just to save me some time. But then I'm also going to be doing this section right here. And then I'm just going to show you what I have over on the next few pages here. So this is where I'm actually going to be doing my weekly check-in for my cash envelope. So I might actually add more pages. This is how I have it set up for each week. I felt like last month, and I'll show you here. Last month was actually kind of a fail. Too much was going on here, and I felt like I wasn't keeping very good track of these pages here with my cash envelope check-ins. So I'm gonna try it this way again. And this is actually how I used to do it, where I would just put week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then put the total at the bottom for each week. But then since I specifically am tracking each cash envelope to see how much I'm spending on each one, I'm probably going to also be doing that here just to keep track of everything. I usually just get rid of this, so I white this out and I just keep going. So I'm going to be going through all of this again, and then we're going to just go ahead and get started. So here I usually focus on my cash envelopes, and I've been adding like another sticker here to kind of cover this up. So I'm going to look for a sticker to cover that up. I'm going to start with the monthly here. Now I usually do paycheck to paycheck budgeting. So with that said, I like to do my bills on this page here. I'll do a separate video on this because I do like to color code as well, but I don't do that in the monthly. In the monthly spread, I like to see when it's due and how much it is, and that's it. But in my mind, I already know what paycheck I'm going to be using to pay for each one of these. And then the way that I used to actually do it was just make a list to color code all of those bills. But I'll go ahead and get into that in another video. We're going to go ahead and get started with writing all of the bills down. On the first of the month, rent is always due, and that's $1,280. So that's the first bill that comes. And then I've already labeled all of my paydays as well. On the 9th here, the credit card is due. And the minimum payment for this is, I believe it's now down to like $165 if I'm not mistaken. But I like to put the actual amount that I want to pay for the month. So I'm going to go ahead and say $500. We were doing $700 for a few months, and it was working really well. Right now what we are able to pay is $500 just because we're saving a little bit of money on the side as well. So on the 12th, my student loan is due. And for this, I'm setting $180 aside a month. I'll go ahead and put the minimum payment here, so $180. I just noticed that I'm just paying so much money for interest for my student loan, so I'm going to have to do something different regarding this here. On the 15th, I do have this therapeutic thing for my mom that I actually pay. I'm only going to do this month and then next month, and that's it. I'm not going to, so this is a bill that I'm just cutting off. So next month is going to be the last month for this, and that way I can save myself a little bit more money on this and be able to use that towards my student loan, hopefully. Okay, and then on the 19th, phones are due. So I pay for 2 phones, and it's a total of $99. And the reason why it's so low, it's because we actually don't owe our phones. We paid those off right away. And with us having like a Boost Mobile, it actually really helps. It doesn't have the greatest coverage, but it really helps with keeping just the cost down. On the 21st, so CenturyLink. Okay, on the 26th, I do have 2 bills due. So I have life insurance, and I'm actually going to just take this out because it's a little harder to write at the bottom. So life insurance. Oh, I messed up. And that's $13.48. And then I also have electricity due on this day. I never really know how much electricity is going to be, but I've actually set this up on auto payments now because it's something that I can easily forget about if it's not auto pay. So I set it up for auto pay. I'll just have to make sure that I go in to see how much it's going to be to make sure that I have the money for that set aside for my paycheck. So on the 28th, I also have 2 bills, and it's Netflix, which is $13.97, and then I have car insurance. And that is $168.50. And then on the 29th, I always put the car loans. It's usually the last day of the month. So I like putting both amounts, both my husband's and I. And then $380. And then what I also like to do on my monthly spread is I like to put the minimum amount that we expect to get paid on Fridays. My husband gets paid weekly and I get paid bi-weekly. So I get paid on the 7th, and so does my husband. So the minimum amount for me would be $1,200. So I just like putting the minimum. And then my husband would be $800. And then I get paid again on the 21st. And then I just put 800 here. All right, so that's the minimum amount for the month. Anyways, that's it for the bills. I don't take into account the variable expenses in my monthly spread, but that's something that I do take into account as we plan for it. So I'm gonna look for a sticker, and then I'll be right back. I found a sticker from the colorful boxes, and I'm just gonna put here sinking funds. Because this is where I'll put the amount that I did for the month at the end of the month. So I do that here, and then I write down my cash envelopes here. So I write down each one of them. I do the budget for the month, and then at the end of the month I come and do the actual. Okay, so groceries is one of my cash envelopes. Gasoline. Girls. Personal. Household. Eating out, and then fun money. Miscellaneous is another one. All right, and then I do have a set budget for the month for each one of these cash envelopes. So for groceries, I've been keeping it under $400, which I'm actually really proud of. But $400 is the budget for the month. For gasoline, $160. However, last month I did keep it way under this, so very, very proud of that. And then just my car is just very efficient with, it's a 4-cylinder car, so it's very efficient that way. For the girls, I did set a budget of $45 for the month, way under this as well. Personal, $75. I usually also stay under. Household, $45. Eating out is $100 a month. I've also been staying under for eating out. And fun money just because we do, like I said, we do want to save on other things besides just going out to eat and things like that. So I usually give or put $20 in that envelope because it's impossible to eat out with $20. So I try to make it impossible so that it's not possible, at least for eating out and fun money. And then miscellaneous, if I'm not mistaken, what was the budget for it? I'm gonna have to take a look. Miscellaneous is 100. Okay, so then that's the budget for the month. What I did last month here is I wrote down all of the bills that I had. So I'm not gonna do that this month. I'm gonna do something else with this section here. But here is where I put my totals and my actuals. So I put the budgeted total and then the actual total for expenses, income, and then remaining. So here I'm gonna put income. So the budgeted income and then the actual. And I always write sideways, so I apologize if that's annoying. I also do the budgeted expenses. And then I do the actual. And then at the bottom here, I do the total remaining. So remaining, and then actual. All right, so that's what I usually do on these boxes. So what I actually do right now is I go over all of the income that we're gonna have for the month of February, what we expect to have, our budgeted expenses, so what we expect to pay for bills, and then I put here, after I subtract that from my income, my expenses from my income, I go ahead and do the remaining for the month. But then at the end of the month, after everything has actually been paid and after all of the variable expenses are all actually taken into account as well, then I go ahead and do the actual remaining that we had for the month. And that's really easy to track if you track your expenses, you guys. It's not that hard to do. I actually include the variable expenses into the budgeted expenses, and then that way, because I am setting like a minimum budget for each of these variable expenses, including my sinking funds, then I can go ahead and track how much that would be in the budget. So usually for cash envelopes, it's around $650 a month. And then for my sinking funds, it's around $300. So if you add that up, it's around $950 a month. If you add that and include that to your budgeted expenses, you have your actual expense there. But then at the end of the month, how much did you spend? Because I come back here and I do my actual amounts. So that's when you want to track your actual expenses and then kind of go based off of that for next month. So if your actual expenses are more than what you actually budgeted for, you're going to have to make some room in there to kind of figure that out as far as what can you cut off or what don't you need as far as your variable expenses. For example, I've really been thinking about just completely getting rid of our eating out envelope, and then possibly household. I've been thinking about those kind of things just because before I just used to have miscellaneous to kind of deal with household items. So it's something I have been contemplating about, but I'll give it another chance here for a few months and see how that goes. But yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some additions and subtractions here to put my budgeted amounts here. We typically use some of last month's income to be able to pay for some of these expenses for this month. So my last paycheck on the 24th of January actually paid for is actually paying, I should say, for the student loan and the credit card. So that's money that's already, been taken care of for these two bills here. And then my husband takes care of the rent with the last month's paycheck. So the last 2 paychecks from January would have covered rent for this month. So that's usually how we do it. Sometimes, especially if my paychecks are, towards the end of the month, like this 21st paycheck here on February is most likely going to cover some of next month's bills. At the end of the month, I also like putting like my account balances of how much I have in each of, my checking, my savings, retirement, and emergency fund. And then here, I like doing the breakdown for my cash envelopes and sinking funds for each paycheck. So a lot on the monthly. I like to keep it very simple and functional. I don't like doing a lot of decorative things on my monthly. I used to, but honestly, like I just want to get my budget out there and done, but keep it very functional. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done and then come back with the numbers. Alright guys, so I added all of our budgeted expenses. It comes to a total of $4,119.36, and that actually includes our variable expenses like the cash envelopes and the sinking funds. And then for the budgeted income, it comes to a total of $5,600. If you subtract the expenses from the income, you get a remaining of $1,480 with 64 cents. I just didn't put the cents there, but that's what we expect to have remaining after paying all the bills and everything. This obviously could change if we want to put more towards debt. I did include the $500 for the credit card on these expenses because last month I was actually able to pay off $791, even though I budgeted $500 to be paid off for that month. So really good in that sense. So I just did the $500, so it is included on these expenses here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just write down what I expect to do for each paycheck. So paycheck number 1, which will be on the 7th, I'm going to do for cash envelopes. I'm going to go ahead and do 300 most likely. And this is just an estimated amount because sometimes it tends to change when I actually get my paycheck and then figure out the numbers. So this is just like a good way to plan ahead. But sometimes it does change. And then for sinking funds, I'm going to go ahead and do 150. All right, so that's it. I believe that's it for this month, you guys. Obviously, with Valentine's Day coming up, I do have a few things planned, especially because the girls do have to bring Valentine's cards and things like that. One really good way of doing this is I actually still have Valentine's cards from a few years ago that I got on clearance at Target. It's a really good way to like kind of stock up for each year. Obviously, it's not going to be as trendy as what you're actually going to get for that year because, characters change and things like that. But I kind of did that, so we do have some Valentine's cards from a few years ago that we can still use, and then we usually do like a do-it-yourself type of little treat for the kids because they can't bring candy to school. They just ask you that you do not bring any type of candy. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of do a DIY. That's what we kind of did last year. Other things coming up for me are no birthdays this month, but I am going to file my taxes this month, so that's either going to, I don't know, make it or break it, I guess, for the month. I don't expect to pay anything, but we'll see. We'll see. I haven't done anything yet. So, all right, that's it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. So I'm going to go ahead and add this envelope in here as well. And I hope to see you on my next video. Comment down below, like, and feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so. And make sure to follow me on Instagram. I'll leave all of that info down below. Until next time, bye-bye.